Well, let's see if I can fix that. What is going on, All Terrain Nation? Whether it be two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, or these Toyotas that some of us want to drive, this is your All Terrain Nation, and this is the happy hour. And I got to bring in two legendary people, maybe in their own minds, but because we had a family squares going on, they were fighting over who got to be where. Mr. Esterdahl, he got the, and Tim, I never say your name right. And
Esterdahl.
Esterdahl,
there you
right?
Go.
Okay,
Yep.
I never get the name right, but Tim, welcome into the new show.
That's all right, Bob. We're all set. I'm just
that's All Terrain Nation.
The music is pretty cool, man. I'm just thinking that earlier.
Thank you.
That was a pretty nice intro, Dave.
But we got Bronco Santa up on top there, and we're going to talk Toyotas tonight. And I thought, who better to talk Toyotas than the king of Toyota, the man, the legend. I called him legendary in a Facebook chat or a group, and he said he's not legendary, but he is. Look, I have the gear on. So, guys, everybody, welcome in Mr. Tim with Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. What's going on, buddy?
It's good. It's good. It's been a day in paradise here in Western Nebraska. You know, watching the corn fly around the field today. Yep. Good time.
Well. Good time. So you dropped a video today, and it sparked one of my questions. I'm gonna save it for later. But you dropped a video on the nighttime and dealing with pickup trucks, and that was a really interesting video because I've not seen anybody do anything like that. Most of us live half the time in our vehicles at night, so that was really cool that you showed how you what do they look like, and the winners and losers was quite surprising in that.
Yeah, it was a really interesting video. So if you haven't seen it, so what I did was over the course of 4 weeks. I had the opportunity to have the Tundra, GMC Sierra, a Ram 1500, a Ford F-150, and then a Nissan Titan showed up last week. So I've been kind of holding this video up for a while. And some backstory on that is that it's all at night, and I tried to show up best I could. The headlights, try to show off the interior, what you can see in the cabin, perimeter alignment, that kind of perimeter lighting, that kind of stuff. Perimeter alignment. Anyways, but the fun story behind that is I'd never seen anybody do it either, which was, same thing you brought up, but also that those were all shot in the morning, actually. Those were all like 5 a.m. And so I kind of learned my lesson in that I'm not so spunky at 5 a.m. And I learned a lot in that video. I learned that the GoPro is probably not your best option for nighttime stuff. I should use my iPhone. I needed to set up some static shots because things change. But again, it's all critiquing stuff. I mean,
sure.
I think the fascinating part of the video is looking at what brands do for the lights for your footwells, the lights in there. Yes. Some brands have lights. It's like the Titan was lit up completely. Other brands have no lights at all for the wheel wells or for footwells.
Right.
And I just found that fascinating. I'm like, and some have puddle lamps outside, so you can actually. Like, for example, you're overlanding or you're doing something camping-wise, middle of the night, you open a door, and then the light could show up along the side, and then you could have a footwell light lighting up so you can see, you drop something, you see what's going on there, right?
Right.
And all these brands, they don't have stuff. And actually, that whole video came out of the idea when I was in Missouri. No, it was in Oklahoma. Where else the hell I was at? Kansas. And I lost my wallet. So I had gotten gas, got to the hotel, I had a long day, and I got out. And I get to the hotel room, I had no wallet. I go downstairs, I get in the truck, drive back to the gas station, no wallet there either. Come back, and it turns out I had stepped over the wallet because I had parked in the same parking spot. But because I didn't have any perimeter lighting on the side, I couldn't see the wallet on the ground.
Wow. Well, the last time I lost a wallet, my mower ate it a couple weeks ago, and that's the last I saw of all of that. So at least you didn't have to deal with that. But I see, Tim, I brought out classy stuff for you. You bring out the Coors Light tonight, and I brought out classy stuff, dude, because I was like, there's a big name in the auto industry, so I brought out the Jack Daniel's Frank Sinatra.
I have stuff. I'm just taking a little whiskey time out.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. So that video was interesting. Always critique yourself doing videos so you do it better. But I thought it was fascinating to see the differences. And it's basically my love song to the Ford F-150 zone lighting.
That
system.
That is such a smart system. And why other brands haven't jumped on that quicker? Like what the GMC had a version of that, right?
Yeah, it's sort of the same. It's not quite as good. And I mean, honestly, all it is software. The lights are there. Yeah. You just gotta do some soft. I mean, it's not like it's a reinventing the wheel. I was just surprised. I was surprised. I don't know. I was kind of surprised how poorly the Tundra is in that regard. And it really shines through in that video, literally. In that you can just see how much darker the Tundra is.
Yeah.
And the one scene in that video is I turn on the fog lamps, which actually that had to get edited a few times. So I totally messed it up. But anyways, because every truck's different fog lamps and everything's a little weird. And I learned two things. First of all, you can't have brights with fog lamps. Apparently, that's a Department of Transportation or NHTSA thing. I haven't researched it anymore. But the second thing too is that the GoPro camera I have has a light on top of it, and I had to turn on my light to see the stalk or the dongle. They call it dongles to see that to turn on the fog lamps. I mean, to me, that was the most telling part of that video was I couldn't even turn on the fog lamps because I couldn't see them.
Yeah, no, I noticed that and you were kind of like you had a scratch your head moment because you're like, damn, I've never really thought about this, and then it like snapped that like, oh crap. Yeah, I was surprised as we're into Toyota. I was surprised at the it's a brand new truck. And those are little small details that seems like those are big three details that the import brands just sort of forget, except for the Titan seemed to be for you like for lighting.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I was shocked actually. I thought it was so well lit. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it really surprised me. And chief engineer of the Tundra is a farmer. He's got a farm, and so I know he uses this truck at night. I know he goes snowmobiling in the middle of winter. I know he needs lights, and I'm just mystified by why that wouldn't be a priority. And I think the problem with it is Toyota is so resistant to quick change,
right?
That it'll probably be 8 years until they add a light. It's like it's a freaking light bulb underneath the mirror. You press a button, it goes out. It just works, right? And
Toyota, everybody will be in some kind of Star Trek powered vehicles, and Toyota's just going to get in the hybrid game or a hybrid pickup game, anyways.
And the Toyota fans are like, well, the aftermarket will solve that. I'm like, well, I don't want to spend $60,000 on a truck and go spend $4 on freaking puddle lamp lights.
Like, no, or it's like Ford omitting cup holders in a Bronco. Like,
no,
you have 4 doors and 2 cup holders.
Dave, get off the cup holders, man. you don't want your kids drinking in the back seat anyways.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But
I find it fascinating. It's and I think that's the big thing on the Tundra is I think it's fair to say that I have covered that vehicle, let's just say extensively, although there's probably another adjective there that I could probably put in for that, or adverb, whatever it's saying. I need Jill.
Descriptive adjective.
Right. So I've covered that thing so much that I'm kind of over it myself a little bit, but there's so many things to talk about. And there's so many interesting choices they made. And I'm always learning new stuff. Like you can't use a snowplow with the Tundra.
What? Because it doesn't have the toe or the hooks up front?
Nope. So this has happened before. The F-150 has a snowplow package, but it's only for the 5-liter V8. Because those twin turbos require more airflow, you can't put a plow in front of it, right? Because think about it. Hello, plow, stopped airflow situation going on. But what's really interesting is in the manual, it talks about how you want to make sure that the grill is kind of uncovered if you're attaching stuff like a snowplow. But the engineers are like, no. And Ford does the same thing. So Ford EcoBoost, the 3.5 EcoBoost, you cannot use a snowplow with. And I've had these long-going discussions with people online. People want to like fight me over this stuff. And I'm like, I'm just telling you what the people tell me. I'm just don't kill the messenger. But because the twin turbos require more airflow, the small displacement twin turbos, that's why the grill is a little bit larger, right? For more airflow. And then if you put something in front of the grill, it doesn't work.
Yeah, but you would think at low speed that you wouldn't think that would be a major issue, and the torque from those turbos would be like great for snow plowing.
Airflow.
Huh.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, Dave, I would think that maybe the problem is not so much when you're plowing at low speed, but when you have your plow up and driving down the highway.
Right.
That could probably deflect more air.
I'm sure it's also probably a cooling issue, and there's probably a lot.
That was interesting. So I have a Chevy Silverado Duramax diesel, and I had some conversation today about people on this. I actually went and got the manual
Well, you love reading manual, Tim.
This
If
is
you
my
guys want a
favorite thing
manual
growing up.
guy,
This people never read the manual, and I love reading the manual because there's always gems in here, right? So the diesel, if you use the cover on the front, right? So for cold weather, you put the diesel, you put that cover on the front. It recommends you don't use the cold cover and the snowplow. Again, the same thought process there. You're blocking airflow coming in.
well, that's good to know, man. And you do go into the details. Like I will say that in your audience, I think I was reading some comments on your videos today. They appreciate your thoroughness with these vehicles. And clearly, if you read the manual, yeah.
I have funny stuff too. Like what was I did this thing. I threw it away. Yeah, I was looking at the manual. Manual in the Tundra says it has information for if you take a nap in your truck. We should do. It has information in there. If you fly in a plane, this is what you should do with your truck. If you're in the airport, have to do it with your key fob. There's information about that. You know, if it is slippery out there, that your truck may get sideways. It may lose traction. Yeah.
Huh. Is a lot of that though just like when the lawyers get involved and they just overthink everything?
Yeah, and so there was a section in there. This is the best one. So the new Tundra on the Crew Max, the rear window is actually shaped differently than the prior generation. The idea behind this is it's Mike Spears' thing. He drove home one day, had the window down, stops in the house, the wind's behind him, and all of the corn husks go right through the cabin. And he says it was like a $200 of cleaning I had to pay somebody because it was the wife's truck, because he could only drive double cab because he needs longer bed. So the wife's truck gets covered with corn husks, and he's upset about this, right? So he goes to the guy and says, hey, we can do something different. So they reshape the window so that way the airflow doesn't go through so badly. And he's like, he comes to me in an event and he goes, man, it's freaking awesome. Reshape that window. You can drive around with it now. It's not going to blow in. In the owner's manual, it says, do not drive around with the window down. So I sent it to him. He goes, that dragon lawyers. You know, he's like, I'm like, you guys spend all this time and energy redesigning this so it actually works. And then it's like, oh, wait.
Well, and then you double down with Toyota, and a lot of the import companies are so conservative about every feature, everything. They don't want you, they don't get full-size pickup trucks in Japan, so they don't understand, what people do with them. So yeah, no, crazy.
Right.
It is kind of interesting how many things you can find in the user manual that they tell you not to do that people do anyways. Just like what you were saying there, Tim.
Yeah. I love deep diving. So for a long period of time, that I just reading the Ford manual the other day, the F-150 recommended that as you go up in elevation, you reduce the payload because the small displacement V6, right? Yeah. And so I wrote an article a long time ago, about 5 years ago, for Pickuptrucktalk or Pickuptrucktalk.com, yeah, and maybe 7 years ago. And I was like, so you have 1,500 pounds of payload in the bed. You're driving, moving across the country. You go up to the Ike Gauntlet, right? The TFL thing. Get the type Eisenhower Tunnel. What are you supposed to do? Unload part of your cargo on the side of the road, drive over the top, unload the other half, drive back, pick up the half, go back over the top. like this is completely unrealistic, and nobody's going to follow this at all. But in the manual, it does clearly state that as you go up, I think it's every, 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet in elevation, you should drop payload by 5%. And
well, I'll keep my calculator out just for that.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's my channel. It's the obscure stuff that Tim finds that he finds hilarious.
Well, clearly people like you because you're over 76,000 subscribers now, something like that.
Yeah, I was talking to Rough Country about this, their marketing team, and basically his response was, my subscriber count does not match my engagement and my views. Right. So the channel gets between 1 to 2 million views a month. And that's actually, if you look at like TFL truck that has the million subscribers, I'm about, they get about 5 million views a month. So I feel like I'm in pretty good territory there.
Yeah.
I have 76,000, I have 1 million, right? So I think subscriber count is just a matter of time. It just doesn't matter. You just got to keep doing it. And because there is no incentive for people to subscribe. That's the biggest misnomer. And it doesn't matter. That's the problem. But yet it does matter to advertisers and marketers because that's the one number they can actually see.
Right, which I struggle with. I mean, me and you've had private conversations on that. I struggle with it. I can get views, and then sometimes the subscribers don't follow, or I get massive views on something, and the other way around. But so you were talking about TFL a little bit. So you guys kind of had a little private race going on of who could get the Tundra the first. So we all three of us got to drive the truck at the same time at the last Texas event before they kind of unleashed it, because you, after that event, you got to do a long-term drive with it, or a longer term drive with it in what is it, San Antonio is where you were at, I believe. Yeah. And so you pretty much had decided, and I think you decided before that event, like that was going to be your next truck if it popped, because you always had the tax man to deal with, and at the end of the year you want to change new trucks and all that. But so was it always like, this has to be it? Because I know privately we talked about some midsize, and they really weren't going to move the needle the way this Tundra's moved for you.
I think that's the biggest thing, like you and I talked off air about several times, is that, and I get this question a lot on the channel, like which truck would I buy for long term? And that's it's an impossible question for me to answer, because I see them as business purchases. I mean, I'm always thinking about what the truck after this truck is going to be. So like when I bought my Ford last year, I was thinking about the truck after that truck, right? So I mean, because I'm just always thinking ahead, and that was a very funny episode of time. That was a very funny moment there, in that I had said publicly I was going to buy a Tundra, and I was doing some shopping for it because I wanted the newest truck, and the Tundra last year was the only new truck in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So I mean, the obvious thing, right? And then I was looking around, and I was talking to Toyota, and I talked to them at events, and I was trying to figure out which one I was going to buy. And I was like, they said heated seats and heated steering wheel unlimited. And I was like, okay, that's what I want. Like,
right.
It's freaking cold up here. Like, I'll take heated seats all day long, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, that's what I was kind of set on. And so, I waited, and then we talked about it a little more, and people were excited about it, and that kind of built the energy. And I was kind of getting excited about it too. And then, like, out of the blue, like TFL buys their Tundra, which I did not anticipate. And I was like, okay, great. I don't see, it's probably my fault, but I don't see TFL and us as like, we do cover the same topics, but we just do things differently. And so I mean, I respect what they're doing. I just don't see them as,
well, that's the great thing of YouTube. Like, everybody just has a different take on it.
Yeah. So I don't have any qualms with them at all. And then Roman makes a point in his video, a live stream. He's like, and I think I sent you the clip because I was so surprised I recorded it, that he literally said, we really wanted to get this truck before Tim got his. Right. Like, what? Wait, what? I mean, at the time I had like 50,000 subscribers. They had over 1 million. They have like 8 channels and 27 staff members in this budget. And I'm like, I'm just here. This is a converted bedroom.
That has to feel good for you though, at the same point, right?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that. So and so I tell you what, Andre flew. They from my understanding is they really were communicating quite extensively with Toyota to get their truck first. And I just don't play that game because I know I'm going to lose. I just don't care.
Right.
Whatever. And Andre actually flew down the week before I got mine, and actually drove an all-nighter because I think he had like a wedding that weekend or something. So they were animate about getting that truck first. And so the cherry on the top for me was they get the truck first, they drive it home, and they do the videos. And I'm kind of like, oh damn, I mean, your balloon's a little deflated. And I was like, no, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to do my stuff. Who cares what happens? And my video, my bought it video, is outperforming theirs, and I was a week late.
Nice. So well, you've always told me you don't have to be first.
No, being first does have an impact on certain things. It does help. I mean, there is something truth to that, but I think at the end of the day, that even you're first or whatever, the people, I say this clearly, as an auto journalist in the industry, I care deeply about what's coming next, what's going on, and I studied it and I researched it, whatever. I think the average consumer could care less, right?
Yeah, I agree.
The average consumer is going to go, oh, there's a new truck driving around. Is that new Tundra? Or maybe it is new Tundra. Google it, right? I mean, that's the average consumer, right? So, I mean, we're hyper-focused as enthusiasts to know everything going on every detail. But the reality is consumers don't care. And so I think sometimes being first actually hurts some views. So, like, the video I did with my first 1,000 miles likes, dislikes, that just became the #1 video on the channel for the Tundra, finally. Well, the video before that was a Ford Ranger that had 550,000 views for no real reason. I got that truck 4 months after the press launch of that truck, where they already drove it. 2 months after I got on dealer lots, and I did a 5 good things and 5 bad things, and I crushed everybody. So it's just one of the bizarre things. But so the best part was that TFL got a blue one, I got a red one. Or no, I got a blue one, they got a red one. You know, so we have. So you're not saying, you're not going, I've seen this truck before on Tim's channel. You know, I mean, it's
well, that's the problem with press loans too. And of course, you're in the same market as them for press loans. Is like you guys are both like, I like what they do and I like what you do. And like I said, it's just different to me. And I think that's why the difference in audience, you know, like you have a hardcore fan base and they have a hardcore fan base.
Yeah.
But when you get some of these vehicles and it's the same vehicle and you're like trying to basically tell almost the same story, but put your spin on it. But that has to be a nightmare, right?
Yeah, it can be. There's a lot of factors get involved in that beyond that. So like, for example, I have a Chevy Silverado Duramax 2500 outside right now. They had it last week. They did off-roading with it. Okay, great. I mean, I can do an off-roading video too. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
However, I'm flying to Palm Springs on Sunday. I'll be gone through next Thursday. So that means I only have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday with the truck, right? So it's basically 5 days. We'll put the finger on this hand. 5 days, right? Well, we're on a massive windstorm event happening next 3 days. I got 2 days, a Friday and a Saturday. The camper I usually tow with this truck is in the shop in Cheyenne, which is an hour away or hour and a half away. So I can't go get the camper until it's done. Takes care of Friday. So it leaves me just Saturday. And so, I mean, it just things come up. So, you know, I would love to have a full week with it, but I don't have the time because of my travel situation and schedule. And with the weather being what's like, I can't do it. So then for me, it's about being creative. What can I do? And that time period is creative. So we're going to do a 100-mile drive tomorrow because I got two retirees that just are bored. And so I take them up, we do a 100-mile drive and we go get lunch, whatever. And they just, they did something today, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, those are situations I have where it's like, I have to make something happen and something unique for the audience, something interesting. But yeah, I'm in the same press pool they are. And it is interesting on the Tundra because I think that's a very clear thing. You can see the difference between my coverage of it and their coverage of it. Their coverage was great. I mean, they did the towing camper test. They did the off-road test. They did the stuff. But, you know, in December, I put out 15 videos on a truck. Mainly A, because I was trying to go on vacation and want to knock some stuff out really fast. But also B, it was hot. The truck was hot. I mean, it was fire. So I was like, you know, I'm going to do a lot of this stuff. And so it's been interesting to watch. And so, you know, and I would say there's a video on the channel about does the Tundra have a hood issue? Oh, I'm from Western Nebraska. Cool. Western Nebraska.
A hood issue?
A hood issue. So here's what happened. They had done like the 30-day recap video on their truck, and Roman reached over the hood and he pushed it down.
Oh, I remember this. Yes.
It didn't latch. And so he actually put his hands on it and forced it down. And I got like emails at the yin yang on this thing. Is there a hood issue? People legit thought that there was a problem with the truck. And so what I did was I did a video on that. And Roman, I think, was a little pissed about it. And rightly so, right? I kind of picked on a little bit. It wasn't my intent, but that's how the video turned out. I've learned in the future now, if I shoot something like that, I should shoot it a couple times, you know, that because it kind of irons out things. And,
well, because that was a quick video. I remember you doing that. It was you were like, man, I just did a response to this.
And if I guess I could check my numbers, but at one point that video had 30,000 views.
Right.
It was just me closing the hood. I mean, that's one thing I learned, how rabid the fan base is for the Tundra. I did a video on the air dam going up and down.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 15,000 views in 2 days.
Yeah.
And the thing that surprised me, the Tundra audience, this has been the big surprise for me. And one thing I did not realize is how isolated they are on their brand. In that, so there's a digital rearview mirror on the Tundra. That came out on the GM trucks, I'm going to say 3-4 years ago. It's been a luxury brand for a while. Usually most modern features start luxury brands work their way down to the mainstream brands. And I'd shown that, and I like it, and I use it all the time because one of the benefits of that mirror that people don't always talk about is at night, since it's a camera, you don't get the glare from brights.
Yeah.
And people don't always understand that. And it's like, no, that thing works great because it's a camera view behind you. And so I talked about that, and people were like, oh my gosh, this is so innovative and so brand new, and it's breaking technology. And I'm like, no, they stole that, right? And so, yeah,
Right.
I mean, those are things that I have found interesting how tunnel vision some of these fans can be, and usually in the big three, or I guess they call it big, the Ram, Chevy, GM, all that kind of stuff. Those guys are more aware, I think, of other brands, what they're doing. But I happen to find that I think Toyota people seem like they are very much hyper focused.
On that, of course, I have a pretty big Bronco crowd. Some of the Bronco people think they invented independent front suspension for off-roading. So I'm amazed sometimes, and I think sometimes Jeep people were coming to Bronco and just being like, "Well, this thing drives great. Like Ford just invented this." And me as an old Nissan guy, I'm over here like going, "I've been dealing with this for 25 years in these style vehicles." But no, I do think like customers, that's a good thing. Like with YouTube and the social medias, you're able to hyper focus on the product you like, and you got blinders on all of a sudden of all the other products because we're clearly politically it's brand loyalty now. Whether commercially of whatever products you buy, it's all brand loyalty. So why not your social media and what you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that for sure. And I know we've talked offline on this. There is so much to watch too. Like if you're going to research one truck, I can see that being a full weekend of watching videos or reading stories. I mean, until you're just like, uncle, no more. I can't do anymore.
What you did that video a couple weeks ago where you had, what was it? You had 5 trucks, right?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. That was a massive video.
This is a good story. If you guys want to know the hell of actually producing big YouTube videos, this is a good story because I know you talked to me privately a couple times, like when you were preparing for this, like you knew what an ordeal it was going to be.
Yeah. So I guess I should go all the way back. So I've recently hired a video editor, Phil Vanderbossen, who's been fantastic. And because I have Jill now managing editor, and I have Erica writing for the site, and I have Phil on the team, I finally have a nucleus that allows me to get outside the box a little bit, right? So I can actually do these videos I've always wanted to do, but I have a team now. And I was doing some research, and TFL actually has a video on half-ton trucks, the best half-ton truck towing. And that video had 1 million views. And that's kind of my personal goal right now. I have several videos in the 500,000 view, but I can't get that 1 million mark. So I keep that's my goal. So I was like,
mine right now is to break my record is 87,000. So if I could ever break 87,000, I'd be happy.
We all have these goals, right? So yeah. I'm sitting there thinking,
guys, I got a video just went up 56 minutes ago, and I'm sitting at 10 views right now. So
I'm
jealous.
I'm jealous, sir.
10. Look, 10 is better than 9.
That's
right.
True. That's true.
As long as it's going up,
So I was waiting for you to go. When you say 10, you mean like 10,000, right? 10,000 views in the last hour.
Yeah. No, we all wish for that.
Just 10.
No, so I mean, I'd done some research from a business standpoint. I knew the videos out there would be hot. I had the press fleet office had assigned me all these vehicles. I never stipulate what vehicles I want. I can't. It doesn't work that way. They just assign them together. And I was like, wait a minute. I started looking at the calendar, and I'm like, hey, I own a Tundra, which is with a 3.5 twin turbo. I'm getting a Ford Power Boost. I'm getting a Ram V8. I'm getting a diesel GMC. And then I was like, well, those are diesel, small displacement V6, V8, and a hybrid. Those are all the top truck engines on the marketplace, if you think of it that way. And so I was like, you know what? All these people are camping now these days because overlanding is a big thing and everything's going that way, right? Except for 10 views. But anyways, overlanding is a big thing these days. So I was like, you know what? I want to do a camping comparison. I've always wanted to do this. And so for 4 weeks straight, I had a new truck in the driveway, which is typical for me. But it wasn't typical to get those 4 different trucks in my driveway. So I knew I needed to do towing each one of them. And I have a cousin who's got a camper. So I borrowed the camper, had it sitting outside the house, But here's the thing is that I wanted to do comparisons of each truck as well. So I would do a video where I'd write a story, whatever, and I'd go outside and I'd have to take each truck and I'd do a walk around. I'd go off-roading with each truck. I would do a intro and outro. And my editor is a big guy for the camera work. So I'd fly my drone and then I'd come back or day before or whatever, I'd do a towing test. And so I'd literally take the trucks and tow the same route, fill them up with gas, do a comparison about how much the fuel economy was on the hand calculator versus the computer. And I flew my drone. And then we wanted to do car to car. So I had one of my friends retired. I had a GoPro up on his car, and I'd have to drive along, fly a drone. I'd be driving up the hill, and I'd have my sound meter. I'd be checking the decibel levels going up the hill, and I'd be doing all this stuff going on while, I mean, I'd float a drone and stop the drone, whatever, but I'd be doing all this stuff going up and down the hills while I'm talking to my camera.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to my camera, doing the sound decibels, my friend's in front of me, I'm doing the drive and like coordinating all this stuff. And I literally uploaded, I want to say it was 3.5 or 4 hours of video, and we cut it down to an hour and 15 minutes. But that took me, it's probably at least 10 days of filming if each truck was a day. Because the other thing too is I got them all in like February and March while the weather was terrible. And so I had to wait until a little bit. I couldn't do it right in the morning. I had to wait till about 10 o'clock, 10:30, because I was trying to get the temperature to be about the same too. I was trying to take out as many variables as I possibly could. If there's a windy day, I excuse that day. If it was a cold morning, I excuse that day. You know what I mean? So I was trying to get everything about 50 degrees and had to fill everything up. And yeah, it was a massive undertaking, and it took us on the back end. I think he spent 14 or 15 hours editing those videos. And that was the first run, and I had to watch. I hate watching myself on camera, but I had to watch all hour and 15 minutes of it, and then we had a massive debate, and this is a lot in my head too. A massive debate about running it all as one video or in 4 separate videos. Another thing that he had to do is he had to make all the spec sheets up, and we had to send them all the Monronis, had to double check all the facts, the rear axle ratio, the max payload, the towing, had to make sure I had the stickers, the yellow payload stickers, had to make sure I had screenshots of each one of those or had them on camera. I mean, so, I mean, there was, and there was a ton of stuff, and I'm proud to say, I think I only made 2 mistakes in the entire video, which is for an hour and 15 minutes is freaking unbelievable.
People don't realize, like, a lot of times you're talking off cuff. I know for me, like, I have an idea of what I want to talk about, but you're having to mentally focus on driving, try to be as interesting as possible with some facts in there. And that alone, let alone the drone work and all this stuff. And then you did it, what, 5 times basically?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the benefit I had was I owned the Tundra. And so I really could I looked at it this way, like the Sierra is my driveway till Tuesday. I have to tow with it this day. I don't have to tow with the Tundra that day. I can go to that. So I was trying to break it down and trying to make it as systematic as I could. Systematic, you know, I hook it up. I measure squat. I look at the screen to make sure I hook up the trailer correctly. I do the stats on the screen, set it up. I tow. I mean, yeah, I was really exhausted in that period of time, but I just had high hopes. And then, like I said, hour 15 minutes. That's a big ask. That's a massive ask. And so
I watched the whole thing. So.
Oh, yeah.
Say, Tim, let me complicate this a little bit for you. Are you bilingual by chance?
No.
It's something I just happened to pick up not too long ago, is that a certain YouTuber has
Mr. Beast, you can say it,
quadrupled his user count or subscriber count by taking his videos and then also producing them in other languages, which I think for something like the automobiles, Spanish or something like that here in North America, maybe French might be a something that I'd look into. I think I'm going to do it and, jump up my 10 views. Maybe
well, you're going to get like 15, 20?
Yeah. So Johnson in my area knows sign language. So my wife is deaf.
There you go.
She's legally deaf. And so we've had conversations about that in the past on how well or how not well closed captioning works on videos. Mm-hmm. So, I watch closed captioning all the time because, well, I'm used to it. I'm married with her, right? So there are certain movies I will watch closed caption because I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Well, you just watched the Top Gun trailer. Was it in closed captioning?
Yeah.
There you go.
I just watch everything closed captioning because it's easier for me. Sporting events are easier to have a little closed captioning. We watch a lot of British dramas. There are words they say I have no idea.
Horrible.
But closed captioning, I can totally get it. So
yeah,
we've had conversations about that too. It is interesting. I know Motor Trend has a Espanol edition, and I'm friends with Manuel, who's over there, and him and I talk about this stuff all the time. And the Spanish truck market, the buying needs and decision making they do is so different that I don't know that I could even speak to the audience.
But that is a huge. I think that's a huge market. I really do. Yeah. I think that is a kind of untapped. Now there are in America, there are Spanish YouTube channels. I've seen them, but
they don't.
I don't think they don't go all. It seems like a lot of times they're more car oriented, like sports car oriented. Where like I'm on construction sites, I deal with Hispanics all the time, and they're always in trucks. So you may be onto something with that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and there's a rather large Spanish Spanish Mexican. I forget what they prefer, but rather large population here in town. Mm-hmm. And so it'd be interesting to tap on those guys and have them do like a walk around a Tundra or something and see what it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but I think that leads to a really good point is that there's always something more you can do. like people are like, you need to be on TikTok. You need to be on Twitter more. You need to be on this more, that more, this more. You need to do more shorts. You need to do more long live streams. You need to, I mean, I get burned out on being on camera, you know? So it's like, I keep hiring people because I still like to write, and that's tough too, because, you know, so I can write things up, but writing is a different part of your creative brain than doing video. And then, you know, I can't really write a bunch each day and do a bunch of video. I've gotten better at it, but it's still tough. But I think that's one of the benefits that I have as a journalist is that I was a writer first. And so I tend to structure things in my head from a writing standpoint, and that's how it comes across on camera.
Well, my hat for that one video though, my hat's off to that one, because that was it. I promise you I won't watch it again though, because that was a long one.
It was so long.
But I think you premiered that one, and I watched it at the premiere, and I was right there with you, and I did find it interesting. But tonight I wanted to get into the Tundra a little bit, because as far as YouTube, me and you, we do go on for hours when we call each other. But first off, guys, I've got 23 likes and I've had 40 some in the stream. If you guys just smash that like button, that's all I ask for. It just helps YouTube say, hey, people like this, and might, you know, suggest it to some other people. But so Tim, the 22 Tundra, what is this? The third generation, right? Technically.
Yep, third generation.
So you had the T100. I guess they had to change the name because of some legal issues or with Ford, I guess. But how are sales on this thing? Because you had somebody in one of your videos today kind of questioning, well, it's been a disaster for Toyota. And I think it's been anything but a disaster. Toyota got, what, 15 years out of the last Tundra? I mean, they milked that thing for anything they could. And the sales were good. I mean, I can't say they're good, because if you look at what Ford does, like, you can't even get close to what those guys are doing. But for an import brand, I looked last month, it was what, around 10,000, I think, which is not bad. I think Nissan would love to have 10,000, you know, Titan sales. So that's projected roughly 100 to 120,000 this year. What are things like? Do you think it's a home run for Toyota so far?
No, I think it's a very complex. I'm gonna have a very complex answer for you, because
that's fine.
Well, as we've discussed, it's me. So there's several challenges going on. So I just did a news story today because I wanted to pull the numbers myself. So they sold 20,000 over the first quarter of 2022, and that's up. I think it's up 16% year over year, which you would expect, right? A new truck you'd expect to be up year over year. So they're being hampered by COVID, right? So and they've had problems getting people to the plant. They've had like one shift a few times. They've cut down shifts. They just can't have people, and they don't have parts, right? So semiconductors, rubber, seat foam, there's a ton of part shortages in the industry. And so we don't have a true accurate number, would be the first thing I want to say.
Right.
Second thing I want to say is that they've always had a capacity issue. They've always shared the plant in San Antonio with the Tacoma. And so they've always shot for about 200,000 units in that plant overall. And it's been about 50-50 split with the Tacoma. Tacoma now is moving all production down to Mexico at this G-Town facility. I can't say the name, and most Toyota folks can't say the name either. Guanajuato, Anjito, I don't know, I can't even say it. But anyways, moving down G-Town. So now you have the first time ever Toyota has a plant sorted to itself. The new Sequoia is going to be moving down there, but the Sequoia sales are probably going to be 30,000, 40,000 at max annually. Yeah. So on the one hand, yes, sales are up 16% year over year, quarter, which you'd expect. Mm-hmm. And they're up in a situation where we have a massive supply chain issues. But the problem is, I wonder if they can grow. They need to grow that much bigger. They need to go even higher, because now you have unlimited capacity. Now your target isn't 100,000 units of Tundra each year. it's about 150 to 175.
Right.
And they've always said that they're 10% short of meeting total demand. And so they have high expectations of this 175, 150, 175.
When I know you had told me one time they thought they could sell more, they just couldn't produce the truck, right?
Right. So now they can produce more.
Yeah.
And so now you don't have the restriction anymore. So I think it's very difficult to say home run because of the fact we have all these excuses, as you would, right? Shortages are excuses, but you do have the capacity now, and so I find it very interesting to see what's going to happen. And the hybrid hasn't come out either, and so because that's been Toyota's kind of I've been emailing them a lot, and they've kind of beaten around the bush, but basically the hybrid is delayed, and it's part shortages. The lithium price has soared. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they raise the price because lithium price soared 80% year over year. And they're using nickel in that battery, which is actually a good thing in that lithium price has soared so much. But nickel is also soaring as well. It's a funny thing what happens with supply and demand. Once you make more EVs, you use more supplies and the supply prices go higher. But I don't know that it's there yet. I think that they estimate in their own internal documents that they're going to get there. The truck industry is very brand loyal. It's not as much as it used to be, but it still is. And you have a lot of bad PR behind the truck right now. You have a lot. I mean, anywhere you go, there are people. I did a video yesterday because there's so many people that thought I hated the truck. There's so many people that want me to lemon it. There's so many people that think that the wastegate issue is a known problem. They can't fix it. And the motor is completely junk. There's this common theme out there that's going around. And I think whenever you have that reinforced, and then you have the reputation of Toyota being, bulletproof, I mean, you have a lot of negative vibes on the truck so far. And I'm hearing from consumers that they love it. And again, this goes back to me being who I am, since I drive so many trucks and so many trucks a year, and I've driven for the last 10 years. I think it's a solid truck. I don't think there's anything, wrong with it. I just think that there's some problems that they need to overcome.
Well, because Toyota's known for quality. When they build any vehicle, they overbuild them. Like with parts, their expectations for their OEM parts are just double what it seems like everybody else is. Of course, there's a premium with that. Toyota's not the cheapest brand out there either, but they have this reputation for quality, and they've had it for probably 30 years. For whatever reason, their cars, Toyota versus the Taurus or anything, a Camry versus them. People are like, well, the Toyota is always quality. Well, like you're saying, they're getting kind of dinged right now with the quality, but is it real? I don't feel like it's Toyota's fault necessarily. Is some of it can be bad labor. Any labor you can get right now to build anything is a plus, but sometimes they're give a dams right now with the labor situation. I track with Nissan a lot. These people feel beat up, worn out. They're asked to produce the same amount of vehicles and do triple the work because nobody wants to work. Is it a factor of that, or is it just a factor of it's the first year production? They're going to iron these little details out.
Iron them out. They're detail stuff. So I find a couple things fascinating. I brought some in a video yesterday. Is that number one, people want that bulletproof engine. They're like, oh, why would you replace the 4.7? Because that's the one this side right there, million-mile truck that I wrote. So and I'm like, well, wait a minute here, and they're like, well, the 5.7 is bulletproof. Why would you delete that? It's like, wait a minute here. Toyota developed the 5.7 from scratch. They developed the 4.7 from scratch. They developed this new 3.5 liter from scratch. And so you can't just say that the new engine is going to be worse reliability, and you're not going to believe in reliability when you believe the other engine that they built from scratch.
Right.
Right. Wait a minute here. I think that the expectations are really high in this truck, because it had been so long brought to the marketplace. I think marketing screwed it up. The hype machine behind this truck was just stupid. I complained to PR many times about this because, and they, towards the end, they got it. Towards the end, they got it, and they were like, all right, fine. We understand that there's so much hype going on. And so you have the situation, you have a lot of hype, you have a lot of stuff that went out there for news cycle, and then you have a lot of letdown customers because, they've had some the first vehicles coming out has problems. But the thing is, when you look back in 2007, that first gen Tundra back in 2007, or the second gen, whatever, first year, it had some problems. Nobody seems to remember this stuff. Air injection pumps were a big issue back in the day. Cam tower had the leak issue going on. There was problems with that truck as far as a variety of issues of 2007. So, but the thing that I tell people is that, look, first year problems.
Yeah.
What have I had? Have I had
Yeah.
anything major? No, I haven't had anything major. And the wastegate problem be solved in a day if they had the parts. So, like, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about a complete engine failure? No. We're talking about a situation they just want to replace a part, right? So the engine's not junk because they got to replace one part, but it is weird when you jump to this conclusion right away saying, well, the first year is just riddled with lots of problems. I haven't really had that riddling of problems.
That's not a problem that's unique to Toyota. I mean,
Yeah.
we're seeing it. Dave and I are seeing it in the Bronco community, and
Mhm.
and I also have to say, in some cases, I think it's a level of expectation. I keep hearing a lot, with the Broncos. I just paid $60,000, and I'm getting some water on the inside, or something like that. And I think it's just not to say that water inside, but it's an off road vehicle, right? It's
Yeah.
it's that kind of that expectation. Sometimes I think people are going into a purchase or seeing these vehicles with very high expectations. Not to say that that's bad, but not realizing that it's
Well, there's a
a
hype
new.
to it too, and there's a
Well,
hype
there,
to
yeah.
your neighbor always wants to be 1st.
Mhm.
It's just that natural competitiveness. We both like the Tundra. If I get it first, John's going to think I'm the cool guy or whatever. So I think there's part of that too. And with Toyota, I seen more this time. They had a lot of new people looking at the truck. There's a lot of people switching to a Toyota Tundra that may have had kind of a bummer experience with being their first Toyota. But before we get into, so John Sotomayor, will the Tundra year cycle move from December, November, or go back to September and August? Do you know that, Tim?
September and August. I mean, that's what they want to do. I mean,
That's usually the natural. I don't.
yeah,
Ford did
there's
this
something
weird
about, I
thing.
think it's something about the cafe cycles run September to August as well. So the
Okay.
system built that way. They delayed it, which kind of screwed me up a little bit. I had no truck for a couple months, but it was just a byproduct of COVID. It was just really what's going
Yeah.
on. Every brand wants to get back there, but I would say two things. I think that the customer expectation in the truck market has changed dramatically. We are getting customers in that have never been truck buyers before,
Mhm.
and they have cash, and they have a BMW or Mercedes-Benz buying experience in the back of their head, and they're buying a full-size truck for the first time.
Yeah.
So
So
their
they're used to them
expectation,
breaking down, right? It's what you're saying.
right? But their expectation is different. And then you also have social media, right? So any problem becomes a massive recall problem. So I did a video on the wastegate issue. People thought I was just a jerk. I mean, they're like, this is a massive recall. And then about a month later, nobody's talking about it. And then here and there, we have a problem. And people are like, oh yeah, I had a problem. Took it to my dealership. They fixed it in a day. I got the truck back. I mean, it's funny how we go through these stages. But I
Yeah.
do believe that the expectation level of a new truck customer is been changed.
Well, and usually happy people don't get on the internet and say they're happy.
Oh no.
And that's the biggest problem. And I'm sure media in general for the automotive world battle. How do you battle this? Because I used to tell the Nissan people, man, they would be like, hey man, this truck's a piece of shit, this or that. And I'd be like, look, constructive criticism. If you type it out, trust me, they screenshot everything. There's people in every one of these little Facebook groups or whatever. They're tracking what they want to know what the average customer thinks. It's Toyota or whatever brand you like. They don't go out there and just like snob appeal, like we threw it out there, let the plebs have it, and then we'll make the next one. No, they want your feedback. But the problem is when you come out there and you're just like, hey, this Tundra is a piece of shit because of the wastegate or this and that, they can't take that to their higher ups and make a move with that. Like, how do you fix? Well, this is a piece of shit. No,
Yeah,
you don't fix that. You go, hey, my wastegate had a problem, but guess what? The dealership was on it. Yeah, it took a couple extra weeks because maybe the pandemic or whatever, but they made it right by me.
And it's funny things to get out there. Like I had a guy today argue with me on Facebook that he said the new wastegate parts are coming from Japan. They changed suppliers. And a higher up from Toyota told him that. And I was like, that's not really accurate. That doesn't make sense. He's like, well, I don't care if you don't believe me. That's what I was told.
That sounds like the guys that always go to the car shows, and especially the mom and pop car shows, the smaller ones. And they're like, well, that guy there at the car show said that this brand's doing this. And you're like, that person doesn't even probably work for the brand that you're talking to.
Yeah. Well, and understand, I went to Toyota Corporate and know that's not happening, by the way.
Yeah.
It concludes that story. They didn't change suppliers. Toyota does not change suppliers like that. But I think
No, that'd be quick.
Yeah, that's a really weird. That would be catastrophic if that happened. That'd be
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's partly that. I will say that I whatever, tip my hat, whatever I got to do here, but pat my back, is that I've made changes happen with this truck on the channel.
You actually have,
which is a great thing for a journalist, because I've said many times, I don't care about my ownership experience. That doesn't matter. It's that, because I'm not going to keep the vehicle.
What's in your best interest that things break?
Well, that too,
really,
but also in that I want to make the vehicle better for the next buyer. So if I can have creative criticism that gets listened to and the vehicle improves, then we all have a better truck to own. And that's my entire viewpoint on that. Is I don't, people are always like, well, that's what you get for buying a first gen. I'm like, well, good. I want to buy the first gen. Here's the thing: you want me to have problems, because if I have problems, I can use my megaphone and make it out to them, and then we can fix these problems, make the truck better.
Yep.
So I'm the best tester out there, because I know all the different brands. I drive a lot of different trucks. I know what to expect.
Yeah, and you're not, once again, saying, hey, you don't have a YouTube channel based on this is a piece of shit and that's it. Yeah. Like, it's constructive. You could have done a constructive criticism, but go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say I've owned 3 first gen vehicles with the FJ Cruiser. I had an 07, got that, the Kia Stinger, and now the Ford Bronco, and I haven't had problems with any one of them. But I think I have my expectations in line, and most of this stuff, even though it's a brand new vehicle, most of the stuff isn't brand new. It's not necessarily a brand new engine. It's not a brand new powertrain or anything like that. It's just really just a new skin around the vehicle to begin with.
Well, Tim, where did Toyota go right with this truck? Because we could probably nitpick a lot of little things. I know there's been some issues with the infotainment system, and then there's been the issues with the subscription-based key fob or whatever. But where have they done right with this vehicle?
So when I look at the marketplace and I look about things, the Toyota Tundra had 2 real problems the prior generation. You had a safety issue. It didn't do well in crash testing because the IIHS improved their tests over time, and the Tundra was old hat as far as design. So they had to improve on safety, and that's a big corporate thing to be safety. And they had a fuel economy problem, right? So people, like somebody commented, they love their 2011, but they always were sucking down gas. Yeah, that's what that truck did. So I think from that standpoint, that was the biggest things they had to improve on. I think they did in both regards, right? So the new truck has got wheel blockers behind the tires to pass the small overlap crash test miraculously. So it's gonna perform better in safety, because they designed the truck to meet today's IIHS testing. It will in 8 years do bad on safety tests. It's gonna look bad in safety. Well, because Toyota doesn't improve their products that fast, right? So that's what's gonna happen. But I think today they're gonna really improve safety. And somebody in my comments are like, I don't know anybody that shops for trucks for safety. Buddy, dude, you are so wrong. Safety videos do amazing. People watch the crap out of these things. People really care about safety. So that was number 1. They had to fix safety. I know that was a big thing aside. Number 2, they had to fix fuel economy because of global emission standards and all the problems at the truck, right? As far as that was always the cap. So they fixed. I think they went right in that they went after those two things right away, and they did improve in those 2 areas. The interior needed a big redo, and they did that really well, right? And so even the screen is massive, and I get this, people talk about big screens, but it is clear, it's crisp. The camera views are crisp, and so they really improved in those key areas, which is what they would need to do. New design, styling.
Seating and styling, everything.
Yeah. So seating is great. The people made a lot of talk about the soft text seats. I love the freaking soft text seats. They're a combination of leather or plastic. I don't really care. They're comfortable as heck. So, and I make a big deal about seating in my channel, and I think that's a key component.
Well, you're a big fan of GM products with seating, right?
Huge. We're taking the we're doing this tomorrow. We're taking the Silverado Duramax for a 100-mile drive. I told all my friends to bring pillows, because that seat just destroys me. But I think they did those key things well. I think they really listened to their audience and made the changes that they needed to make.
And if they can convert that to
the mustache, right? So the styling is always going to be a controversy, right? But the thing that I said about styling is that if you are not out there and creating a reaction with your styling in the first year, you're already going to look bland by year 2.
Well, I will say it was shocking at first, but I like it now. Especially I've seen them lift it a little bit, a little aggressive tire to it. It just changes the kind of, I don't know. I like that they have some squareness to them, some sharp angles versus now everything is so rounded, and even the last Tundra was just such a rounded looking vehicle, which for the time was great. But nowadays I kind of want that harshness.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be out there, right? So you have to create emotion from styling, whether it's good or bad emotion. You have to create emotion. It's just how things work. But I think those things were the key areas where they went really well. I think that those, and well, actually, ride quality. I should say number 3 was ride quality. That was a big problem of prior generation.
Right.
I owned the prior generation for a couple of years, and that thing rode tough. And so this ride's buttery smooth. It's got tons of power. It's good towing. I was shocked when I did towing video and I got 11 miles per gallon. Out of all the gas engines, that was the best out of all the gas engines, even the hybrid. I was really surprised on all that stuff. So I think that all was right. I think they did it. I've said many times, I think from an engineering standpoint, they did a lot of really good things.
Well, now with the seating position, if they could translate that into Tacoma, that might be might be a win for Toyota. Can you imagine if that thing was comfortable to sit in, how many they would actually sell?
Well, the funny thing with the Tacoma is it's number 1 sales leader. And what's funny about it is every time a new competitor comes to the marketplace, they sell more Tacomas.
Yeah.
And it's such a bizarre situation because I've driven Tacoma a lot over the years. And it's a funny story in that I never thought the problem was seating position until I had a guy tell me about it. Dan Edmonds told me about it. He's now the technical writer or editor for Car and Driver. Dan and I were at an event. He was telling me about it because Dan's taller than I am. Mm-hmm. And so I started noticing that every time I got in the truck, I bent my head. And I didn't notice that until he brought it up. And I started thinking about seating position, that kind of stuff. And so I think the Tacoma is going to be redone. I think it's going to get a little bit, it should be redone this year, I think, is what they're looking at. And I think it's going to borrow a lot of the Tacoma, Tundra ideas. For sure.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Because it's not on shared platform. It's going to be similar platforms, and they're just going to borrow some of the parts. But I think the Tacoma's going to be.
I thought that was a big thing. They were going to share cross platforms with that and the Sequoia and everything.
That was. I know the gentleman who wrote that story, and I called him out immediately because he was flat out wrong.
Right.
And he's proven to be wrong. But I think they went right in that. I think they set the stage for future platforms. I think they did a lot of right things. I think they lead it off with the Tundra. Probably makes sense because it's not their big volume leader, and so they can take the reaction we got from the Tundra, apply it to the Tacoma, and make sure that they don't make the same misses in that truck.
Yeah. So when you did this review, where you were doing the nighttime review, so let's look at the 2 import brands. You got the Titan and you got the Tundra. Mm-hmm. Give me one plus that the one each beats the other one. What is something that the Nissan does better than the Toyota and vice versa?
I think the Nissan does a much better job of interior cabin lighting, and actually a little bit exterior on the sides because they have the puddle lamps and the stuff. I mean, it was nice and bright in that cabin. I was noticing when I was driving around, I like the headlights better than the Tundra.
Yeah,
little teardrop headlight look, and we did some car to car stuff. So I was actually watching some of the car to car stuff when we got home, make sure that it turned out all right. Didn't need to redo it, but I thought the Tundra looked better, and I think the lights are better in the Tundra than the Titan are.
Right. Well, towing and everything, they're somewhat similar. I think the Titan. Well, you had an XD, if I remember right? So it had a little better towing.
Well, you know what's shocking about the XD, and this is the video we're working on. The XD had a payload of 1,600 pounds, and max towing is 9,700 pounds. The Tundra has a payload of 1,400 pounds, max towing 11,000 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So it was, but I said in my video, I think the Nissan Titan will tow 10,000 pounds more confidently than the Tundra will because of the stronger frame and the heavy dutiness of it, heavy duty half ton. Mm-hmm. But I found the payload number very fascinating. I think that the XD needs to be 2,000 pounds of payload minimum and about 14,000 pounds, 15,000 pounds of towing.
Well, there's rumors coming out this the last year of that Titan, so we may not have to worry about that after this year. So
no, I think they missed the mark when it came out. It was bad timing. But they launched it, and all of a sudden Ford raised their towing number by 4,000 pounds, and it was bad. And that's the thing that Tundra is going to run into. The same problem is it was good timing for them last year, being the only truck that was new. But if they had come to market in September, they'd have a much more sales momentum heading into this year. And then this year, we're going to see the refreshed Silverado, refreshed Sierra. We're going to see a new Ram 1500. That's going to make the Tundra feel really old real fast.
Oh yeah, and what Ford's on it seems like an every 2-year cycle. So then, what 24 would be a redesigned F-150, and
Ford's crazy about that. But yeah, so I think you're going to see a lot of pressure. I think right now it's new, it's flashy, and I think the biggest challenge is customers can't really cross shop that well because there's not enough vehicles in the lots.
Yeah, right now, I've went by all my major dealerships here, and there's nothing. And I thought there was nothing months ago, and now all of a sudden there's really not. So we had a Kia dealership pop up right when the pandemic hit, and they've had maybe a handful of new Kias ever in what we're 2 years into the pandemic. And I'm like, how does this place stay open? I mean, they have a few, like they have more used cars, obviously, but I'm like, how do you call this a Kia dealership? Because you have no Kias.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think that's the biggest problem doing sales stories right now, right? Because everything's an asterisk. I was thinking about today, it's like reminds me of that when Barry Bonds, got busted for the drugs, whatever. It's like you put the asterisk next to his home run records because he was on drugs, right? And I think it's the same deal going on now, the asterisk for the sales numbers, right? So, and then you have people that have deposits on both, or they're cross-shopping both, and so these numbers get inflated, and it's going to be interesting what happens. It's going to be, I love sales numbers in that sales numbers speak the truth. They're facts. No matter what all of us say, no matter what of us talk about stuff, sales numbers don't lie. If the Bronco's not selling, if the Tundra's not selling, if the Jeep's not selling, whatever, the numbers don't lie. It doesn't matter what people say about it. The numbers are the numbers.
Well, does a brand like Toyota, who's been in fourth place basically in full size truck sales, do they look at Nissan and go, "Hey man, don't drop out, please. We don't want to be considered last now."
No,
I mean, because there is a perception to that, right? Like I think that's part of Nissan Titan's problem is there's a perception it's always last.
Well, the American psyche is building up, right? So American psyche's got to be number one all the time. I think what I tell people all the time on this question is that Toyota globally is the world's largest truck maker. The Hilux destroys competition globally. Mm-hmm. And between that, Tacoma and Tundra, they destroy Ford globally.
Right.
And so the reality of things is why would Toyota spend the $2 billion to put another plant in, to expand production, to be number one in one market out of the entire world when they're one of the world's largest automakers? Toyota has the resources. If they chose to be number one, they would come in here and just buy market share and be number one.
Oh yeah, because I think I was watching.
Why would you? It's bad business.
Yeah, I was watching Moto Man today. He was talking about the new Corolla GR, and he was talking about the cash that Toyota has on hand in his video, because part of it was talking about, well, Ford or whoever has like $20 billion in reserves that they can always pull from. And he's like, Toyota has like $48 billion or something ridiculous that they have just sitting there to play with. So yeah, if they ever want to just push into a market,
they could.
They really have the funds to do it.
Yeah, but it'd be bad business though, right? So people are like, well, Toyota Tundra will never be number one like Ford is. And
and technically, is Ford really number one? I mean, if you put the twins together, there's always that weird debate.
That stuff. But yeah, I mean, so it's like, and Toyota Japan doesn't understand trucks. They don't even use trucks over there except for K trucks to haul. I've been to Japan. I know what I'm talking about with that. But so it's like they don't care, and I don't blame them. They want to build a good half-ton truck, and they build a solid. They build a solid half-ton truck. They really do. Mm-hmm. Does it have a little bit of issues? Sure, but the issues that I'm having are not really Tundra specific, right? So the infotainment system that was launched the Lexus NX first, and now it's going to be used throughout the Toyota lineup. So it's not a Tundra system.
Yeah,
it's an overall system. Do I not like tow hooks? Yeah, it's the tow hook police, all that kind of stuff going to tow hooks. But I mean, it was a compromise with safety and aerodynamics, right? So you have to have the aerodynamic come down for better fuel economy, safety for crash testing, right? So you can't have these two bars sticking out, and because you never know what NHTSA's going to come up with, or the IHS can come up with. So yeah, there's compromises there. Things that really irritate me are the rear bumper. I think that is the styling. I'm sure by now that the quality design president is on a first name basis with me with the staff, because I've complained about that so many times, and it's a complete mess up in his end. He just completely screwed it up. So, those are the issues I have. There's a weather stripping issue that causes the wind noise. That's the new one. And I heard it in my truck the other day for the first time. Well, that's a supplier issue who hasn't done the weather stripping right. It's funny. People go to dealerships and want it replaced. And it's like, well, no, the supplier hasn't come up with a fix yet. So you're going to put the same weather strip problem that's in the old and the new, and it's not going to fix it. So, I don't think, again, nothing I've had has been like groundbreaking. Yeah, if I had the wastegate issue, which I would have loved to have, it, but I didn't have it. So that's one of those issues. But again, one of those issues, once it gets fixed, all of a sudden people don't talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
There's one guy online who lost an axle because somebody didn't put some bolts on or something for it. And people were like, well, that's a major issue. Is it really though? We're looking at right now, they sold 20,000 last quarter. So we're at what? Before that, 30, 40. So we're at conservatively 50,000 Tundras built right now. And one had a problem.
Yeah, well, that's a major issue for the person that owns that one particular truck.
Yeah. I'm not,
but not across the line there.
Yeah, I'm not. People have wastegate issues. I don't say any negative for them at all. I mean, that's a huge issue for them. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, look, that's what's going on.
Well, do you see, because I know you track these groups pretty well with this, do you see people that were buying this thing coming from other brands and then quickly getting rid of it? Because I've seen a few, like I said, the negative's always louder than the positive, but I have been amazed. I remember this when the new Titan launched in the XD form. People were like, oh my God, I'm ditching my Ford. I'm going right to this. And then 6 weeks later, it was a lot of dumb kids because they were like, oh, I'm traded this for the new Ram 2500, and they're so upside down. It's pathetic. But I've seen a handful of people going, good luck. In a couple of years, I'll give it a shot again.
I've seen that. I've seen it with early on. I did a video on the infotainment system and how you had to do a PIN number and this, whatever. And the guy literally watched he bought his truck, drove home, watched my video. Next day, drove back to the dealership and dropped the truck back off and got a refund. He's like, I'm not gonna deal with this BS. And he was in a place in the country where they do like a 24-hour like guarantee or whatever. And some dealerships do this stuff. But I've seen that. What I find fascinating about that is that people get really excited for new things, and we all do, right? New game comes out, new movie comes out. We're excited for that. But we rush into it, and I'm like, it's funny to me how much the middle class has so much money to burn these days for some reason. I don't know. It's people. I mean, we have 66,000 GMC Hummer reservations on what's essentially a turd of an EV truck. I mean, you had talked about it being the gas guzzling version of their normal H2. Look at the numbers. It's from an EV standpoint is very inefficient.
Yeah,
and the pictures I'm seeing are people parking their Hummer next to their chipped out Corvette Z whatever with the wing on the back with a custom paint job. They just want to drive something fast. And so I get people all the time, they're like, hey, look, I can't believe that this is, I'm going to buy this truck, I'm going to do this for this much money. I'm looking like a snack.
Right. Andy, thank you for that super chat, sir.
Yeah.
And Overlanding for Fun does look like he's looking for a snack over there every once in a while.
I am, dude. Well, I had the pot roast for dinner tonight.
But yeah, I think there's always a sense of buyer's remorse. I just find it fascinating this day and age when there's so much information online and there's so much resources you can find that you would pull the trigger and make the decision without having some sort of iota of what you're looking for and what you're thinking about.
Funny you mentioned that, Tim. I think both Dave and I fall into that category. Year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, we put $100 down for a deposit on a vehicle that we waited for some period of time, took possession of without ever driving it. And I think
you have
I think that's part of. I see a lot of the companies, and I might be wrong, but at least with the situation at hand, I think a lot of companies are kind of going to start moving to that model. They're not going to put a whole lot of vehicles on the lot anymore. They're going to do more of that just in time, or kind of have a stable of standard vehicles kind of ready to go, and as the orders come in, fulfill them a little bit quicker, and then get them out to the dealerships. So
I did the same thing, right? So I bought the Tundra. I had driven it a few times. I was kind of,
Yeah.
I had inside knowledge on that, but it is going that way. You're absolutely right. It is going that way. And I think it's bad for the consumer. I think the consumers can't be as informed and
Yeah, but that's good for us
buying
because
power as they have.
it makes them rely on us even more for buying decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's, I don't like it. I don't like the reservation situation going on right now. I don't like these deposits going down because I think it also inflates numbers, and I think Wall Street loves this stuff. And it's great for press releases, but you can never fact check these numbers, right? So GM's like 66,000 reservations of Hummer. Okay, that's a great headline, but do you have the numbers to back it up? Do you have the proof? Like, where's the proof of the number? You know, and so
well, the proof will be you look 6 months down the road, and how many did they produce or sell? You know,
So-
that's down the road. You can
they
track
sold
that.
99 so far this year.
Yeah.
60,000 reservations. I mean, they've got the receipts, right? They're processing those. That number could be validated, but
yeah, but I wish they would.
How many people follow through with that reservation, convert it to an order, and then are they going to see the same kind of problems GM or anybody else that Ford had in trying to get the Bronco off the line?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan. Go finish up. I'm sorry.
No, so I was just saying that. So in some cases, you're right. I think, and Dave and I were, I think, talking about this the other day, or maybe last week. The numbers, the hype, they're really hyping stuff up, and I think that keeps them looking good for Wall Street and their investors. But where's the proof? Where's at the end of the day, at some point, they're going to have to put a vehicle out there.
And is that why companies like Ford, Tim, is that why they're doing like the Rattler and all this stuff? And yeah, they'll eventually produce it.
Great name for a pickup, by the way. Great name.
No, that's a horrible effing name for that truck. A car, yes. You call a Mustang a Rattler, I'm all about it for some reason, not a truck. But is that to keep maybe your stock market people happy? That look, they're constantly growing. Look, they're just growing. In reality, they're not, because let's be honest, most people at Wall Street have no idea about cars. They don't buy cars. They might lease a car, but like the cars
look at Tesla's over $1,000 a stock.
Yeah.
Right. And GM's like at 25.
Yeah.
So
well, there's some hype to that one. There's definitely hype.
Wait a minute here. You have a major company versus somebody who wants to be a major company, and so Wall Street doesn't make sense. But CEOs get paid by stock prices these days. They get stock in bet. So I don't.
Yeah, but Tesla's a little bit different. You guys see Tesla as an automobile company. Tesla is a data company. They are a data gathering company, and they're taking all that data from those vehicles and they're turning around and selling that. The vehicle is just a means of gathering that data. So that's a two-sided.
So you're saying it's an app. There. It's basically an app that's stealing all your information.
It is
like TikTok. It's a TikTok.
Like TikTok, except for the guy that owns Tesla now owns 9.2% of Twitter.
Yeah. He's like, hey guys, do you want an edit button? And this Twitter CEO is like, that's a solid question.
Yeah,
dumbass. They've been asking that for years. Like,
for 10 years, people have been saying
market. I mean I think that's the biggest thing that I do. If I were to pat myself on the back, I do a lot more than other channels do. Is that I really pay attention to my comments. Probably too much. I probably run on this. I probably pay too much attention. I probably get thrown away, different directions. But I just feel like my audience is my lifeblood. It's my community. Like I could pay attention to these guys. And for the Twitter CEO to say that publicly just shows how out of touch he is.
Well, look at Jeep. Before the Bronco came out, Jeep, people have been asking for years, we need a V8 in the Jeep. Want a V8. What happens as soon as a couple days before competition comes out? It's like, ta-da. Yeah. We give you, nobody's been asking for this.
We've been working on this for years, by the way, behind the scenes, working on it for a long time.
I heard that the other day. I call such bullshit on that one.
Well, and it's terrible, right? So the Jeep Wrangler 392 is it's just a terrible vehicle in that you can barely drive it out. You can barely get off the driveway before it's sideways.
I know. Kelly had one at the Texas event we were all at. Kelly had that one sideways.
Oh yeah, it's the thing is short wheelbase, tons of power, right? So there's a guy in Michigan America's Most Wanted 4x4. Great guy. I'm not going to say anything negative, but he was putting the Demon engine?
They got elephants they're putting
The
in that thing.
elephants. He was putting a
Yeah.
elephant engine in that thing and doing donuts in a parking lot, and I was like, that is just unsafe.
Well,
Like,
then you see them in 4-wheel drive, and they can just sit there and just spin and spin and spin.
Right. And I'm just, and maybe I'm getting old, but I look at that stuff going, so you like to buy tires and axles? Okay, that's what I get from that.
I'm sorry though, man. Something Jeep knows how to do is tune an exhaust system with their V8s and that company in general, because the TRX sounds, when you push that button to start it up and you hear that fire up, that if you're not a car or truck guy, if you don't like the sound of that V8 when it launches. Now, is it practical? No, but you know what the 392 is going to be? It's a collector's item. Because maybe it has another year and a half or so before they do away with V8s.
Well, the reality is the 4xe is more powerful and quicker, but
I've seen a lot of people though get. I talked to a lot in the Jeep community a few weeks ago. I was at an event, and there's a lot of people that bought them and turned them right back in. They did not like the 4xe.
So that leads us to the question that's going to happen to the Tundra, right? So I tried to keep this on topic a little bit. The hybrid version, the iForce Max, has 100 foot-pounds, 170 foot-pounds more torque and maybe like 50 more horsepower, and it gets like 2 miles per gallon better city, and that's it.
Yeah,
I could see that being a dud, because there is. I towed 6,000 pounds of my Tundra and got 11 miles per gallon. Well, 6,000 pound camper, that's about a half-ton range. I mean, it was a 24-foot camper. You can go 30, a little bit heavier. You know, that's what you need. I didn't have any problems towing it at all. So for me, the question is, why would I need a hybrid? Why would I need that extra horsepower and torque? I have plenty. And if I'm going to tow a 35-foot camper or 40-foot camper, I'm going 3/4 ton anyways. I'm not going to go at half ton with that. I don't even make that work. And so I just feel like that engine, that's my biggest criticism, is that should be set up for, Andy, that should be set up for fuel economy, and it should have the power on board. And I think that's where Toyota really messed it up. I think and the thing is, Mike, so again, Mike's very stupid here. We love hate back and forth, in that I call him on stuff all the time, because he calls me out too. So it's just this back and forth we have. But he said for the longest time that these features in some of these Ford vehicles and things are answering a question that nobody's asking, right? So payload monitor on the F-50, nobody's asking for this feature, but they put it in anyways, right? So it's answering a question nobody's asking. And I'm like, well, look, buddy, nobody's asking for a half ton that tows amazing 8,000 pounds of weight all the time. No, nobody's doing that. And people they're going 3/4 ton because, why not? For them $1 too. 3/4 tons the same price as half ton these days. So why not buy the bigger truck if you're going to go down the road? So I just think him and I, we went rounds on this, and we still don't agree. I think they completely missed the boat on the hybrid. I think if you're to look at the Tundra and take away anything as a takeaway on this, I think you can see that the hybrid version is going to not be as big as they think it's going to be, from my opinion.
Well, because they didn't approach it as fuel economy. It was more about, because it bolts in between. It's one of the systems that bolts in between the transmission and the flywheel, right? So it's really
linear. It's not series, whatever it is.
But it's strictly for towing. It's not it's why they even called it a hybrid. They should have came up with an original name for what that feature is. It's not about, because people associate hybrid with fuel economy.
Yeah, it's not a fuel economy at all. Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest takeaway. I think people are going to be really disappointed when they get that truck and drive it around and see that the fuel economy is not much different. And you're paying $3,500 more for the hybrid, and you're getting 2 miles per gallon better. I don't know about you, but that math doesn't work out for me. It doesn't work out in my head. And
no, because it's almost at that point, it's like the little small diesels. Unless you own that truck for 10 years, especially now with the prices, it doesn't work out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chevy did a smart thing. They replaced their diesel price down to $9.95. Yeah. That is a freaking bargain.
So, some of these things, the hybrids and the EVs and stuff like that, I think some people buy them, well, for various reasons, but one, to make them feel better. So maybe it isn't so much the value proposition, and it is they feel better that they're using a renewable source of energy versus burning hydrocarbons. in some of these places. And really, you're not going to get much benefit out of a hybrid anyways, unless you do a lot of start and stop in town type driving. Yeah, that's
I
go,
mean,
go stand on a street corner in San Francisco and watch 6 lanes of traffic. The light turns green, and then all of a sudden everybody's engines fire up, and and then take off, go 2 blocks to the next stoplight, and then you'll see where a hybrid really comes into play, or that auto stop start feature that they're pushing out on vehicles now.
Well, auto start stop. I've learned that auto start stop is an EPA credit. I didn't know that.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That's why it's going mainstream, because they get it's that new cafe law, which I'm gonna download that and grab a few beers and read it all, because it's mind-numbing stuff. But I was talking to a product planner from Kia, and he said, yeah, it's a EPA credit. That's why everybody's gonna have it. And so
what? But is there actual numbers behind that? Because I was always told the start of a vehicle uses a lot of gas to start it back up. I'm sure modern direct injected engines is solve that, but yeah, that's God, in the Bronco especially, man, it's slightly dangerous. I've stopped in that thing, just come to a rolling stop, and traffic was where I needed to go, and it was trying to shut off on a rolling stop.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've had that problem too. That's
yes.
The same thing. I mean, I would roll up to an intersection, waiting to turn left, and waiting for the car to pass me, and the engine just shuts down. And I don't. That's not a position I want to be in. And
so I have the opposite problem. I keep trying to do a video on start stop with the Tundra, and I can't. It doesn't turn off because I don't press the brake pedal down enough. I have the AC on, or the battery's charging. I can't get it to work. But auto start stop is a very contentious topic. A lot of people, Jill loves it. Sarcasm. But there is EPA credits, and there is no, to me, any facts behind it. But it is nice to be in like a 405 in California, be sitting there and not burning fuel.
There's definitely a place for it. Now, I'm more rural. I mean, obviously, I'm not a big city, but I'm not a small city, so it's aggravating to me. But if you're in probably downtown any major city, there's probably a major deal for that. But the only thing I worry about, and I know they always say, well, it's a different starting system, the way it activates and stuff. But I'm just like, that just seems like more wear and tear.
Yeah, and the starters are much bigger. Things have changed. I mean, the best version of auto start stop is a hybrid, right? So like when I had my Power Boost last year, I told people all the time, I don't give a crap about the hybrid version of that truck. I don't care. I don't drive it. I don't buy trucks based on fuel economy. I wanted the power on board in the back, because I actually use the heck out of that. And also, auto start stop with a hybrid is seamless, because you run on EV power only when you're in those situations. And so there's a real benefit to that, in a downtown situation like Tim brought up in San Francisco, whatever, if you have a hybrid in a situation, you are saving fuel, and you are doing much better on that. Are there facts and behind it? No, it's just it's a theory that the EPA has that's going to save fuel. I mean, there's no numbers behind it.
So one of the things I did a video on the stop start with the Bronco, and when I was doing a little bit of research, I did stumble across at least one article that indicated that I believe Canada has a law where you cannot allow your engine to idle for some period of time, not a real long period of time, like 3 or 5 minutes. You're by law supposed to shut it down. Yep. So I think maybe in a situation like that, if there is such a law, that maybe that would be a good.
California has
thing
it.
They have
Denver has it. Chicago has it. Yeah.
Cold places, they don't want you to warm your vehicle up.
California has it, which is a bit. When I rode in the hydrogen fuel cell semi, that was a big thing for them, because they would get fined for having the AC on. So you sit in port, 85 degrees, sun on them, and they couldn't run the truck with the AC because they couldn't idle it.
Yeah,
man, those truck drivers, they wanted a hybrid system immediately, because they want to run the AC. They want to actually, hydrogen is a full electric, with the hydrogen fuel, whatever. But that's the thing I always think is funny. It's like, we get down into the weeds about like EV this or EV that. But the reality of thing is, and this is where I'm at, I'm such a practical guy. For me, the hybrid is having the power in the back, at my disposal, like with the Power Boost, and also sitting in traffic in the summertime and be able to run my AC. Those are real practical things that make a big benefit in total ownership. That guys will come over and, hey, Tim, check it out. Come on, check this out, man. This thing can run the AC when the engine turns off. It's fantastic. Those are things that people talk to me about a lot, because that's what they're excited. That's the feature they're excited for. Do they care about fuel economy? Hell no, they don't care about fuel economy. They care about those features.
I've had a philosophy. My biggest concern is, and I don't care what the power plant is do I have the giddy up and go when I slam that pedal down? And if it's a underpowered gas engine, no, I don't want it. If it's an EV and I, do a ramps up power really quickly, that's what I'm concerned about is, how fast can I get out of a bad situation by slamming that pedal down and having that way out, so that, hey, that's cool. If I can run the air conditioning with on battery only and I could punch the pedal and get out of the way, then I'm happy.
My big, I talk about this a lot, is that I don't care about a truck's 0 to 60 time.
Yeah,
I care about the 50 to 70 passing time. Because what do you do more often in a truck? Do you slam the gas out the stop sign? No, because all your crap goes to the back of the truck and flies around, right? No, you do that to show off your buddies and your girlfriend, whatever. But after a while, you're like, man, I'm tired of having my big gulp go spray off my back seats, right? So I'm not gonna do offline stuff anymore. But the 50 to 70, right? We all do that. Yeah, and that's that makes rural roads, 2-lane rural roads, passing a tractor or something, and you can't see over the hill. That's real life to me. That's what I focus on a lot. Is I don't care about, I mean, again, it's always funny because people stop in trucks and they smash the gas right away and like, look how fast this is, and then they never do it again. It's like you just show off. It just gets old. But what doesn't get old is passing on highway, passing stuff, because that to me makes more of an impact than anything else.
Right. And of course, me and you both have the new Silverado EV on reservation. Whether
did you do one too? Yeah, we did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah. And that will be the thing with that. The new Lightning is due out. I know they've been producing them, so they're starting to ship those soon. Like, you're going to see a bunch of that stupid stuff, and I don't care about that stuff, man. I want to feel. Obviously, I think it's, as a car nut, to feel something, what the new Plaid edition of the Tesla is like 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. To feel the G's of that would be fun once or twice. After that, I don't care, man. And I think it's the way with a lot of these trucks too, like the TRX. I would own one of those in a heartbeat. It's not a practical vehicle at all because it doesn't do truck things technically. Oh, it can barely haul. Don't tow with it.
Yeah, it's awesomely stupid. Right? I mean, I've driven the heck out of it. I love that thing. But yeah,
if you could find them right now, that's another one. That's a whole nother show of collector vehicles, because I think V8's the new modern V8 right now. In 10 years, there's going to be no V8s. We know that. And I think people are going to always want, look at muscle cars. People always are drawn to that, and those muscle cars, you look at an old Camaro or something from the 60s, those are so slow now. But it's that sound and it's mechanical and it's exciting.
Didn't Chrysler announce that they're dropping V8s?
Oh, Tim did a big video on it. That video did well on that thing.
That was kind of crazy. My timing is off. I will admit that on camera. My timing's off. The Hemi's probably not going to go away immediately. But I think in the press release, it was like the new Hurricane 3-liter V6 gets the same power that the V8 gets. It is better than emissions. I mean, they were constantly poking fun at the V8 in that press release. And Dodge has announced that the Challenger and Charger will not have V8s anymore. They're going to go fully electric with that stuff. And I find electric is fun in that if you've never driven an electric vehicle, they are fun. I've driven the Teslas, I've driven the VWs. They are fun. It's power on demand, right? I mean, it's electric power source. You flick the switch, you have power. But it does get boring after a while because you go through tires, right? So every Tesla Model S I've ever driven, the back tires are bald. Why?
Really?
Because everybody, you know what I mean? I mean, so it's like I mean, how much do you want to spend on tires is what you're gonna end up doing. So I think that the more I've driven EVs, the more, I mean, it is fun. It's cool. It's different. It's the newness to it, right? But I'm like, I drive EVs all the time. I play a lot of golf. It's a golf cart. It's the same idea.
There you go.
Well, you should hot rod that thing.
It's a bigger golf cart, right? So yeah, somebody was talking about this on a live stream. They're like, yeah, I can't wait to get my new EV truck. I'm going to lift it and put big tires on. I'm going to, do this and that. I'm like, no, that's exactly what you're
waiting to see a snorkel on the new EV Hummer.
Right? Yeah. Right?
So they can afford.
It's for the HVAC.
So they can go forging, right, Dave?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a consortium of enthusiasts that are going to keep certain engines around. We'll have gasoline for a long time. Somebody will make a synthetic version of gasoline. That's what we'll end up using. But I think we're going to see a majority of the population going EVs, and the reason why, I think a lot of the population doesn't care much about cars as we used to, and they just want basic transportation. And from a basic transportation standpoint, you can just drive and go. The best story I have for EVs. I was watching Jay Leno's Garage, and I don't always like, but this time I was watching it because it had Weird Al Yankovic on there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm a huge Weird Al, because the thing with Weird Al is he's a genius. Like, he is incredibly smart, and he drives a Tesla. And so Jay was like, "Why do you drive this Tesla? You know, what's going on behind this?" And in college, he was given the old 1964 Chrysler wagon, whatever, right? And he drove it until the engine blew out because he didn't realize he needed oil changes, because he's such a creative guy, and his mind's so creative. The basic things of oil changes and belts and timing and stuff like that, he just couldn't wrap his head around. And I was talking to some people. I learned this a couple years ago. There are people that really, really dislike gas stations. They don't want to pump their own gas. They hate this. They want full service gas stations. They don't want to even go to the gas station. There are people that will go over, pick up mom's car once a week, go fill it up, and bring it back to her because she will not go to the gas station, right? And so there's a group of population that really want EVs to never have to go to the gas station again. And, okay.
Well, then you have my mother was a supervisor of a chain of gas stations, and guess what? She never did. Had fuel in her car. It used to piss my dad off more than anything. He's like, "You're at them all day long, and you can't put fuel in these things."
Yeah, people. I mean, so my wife has the same, not same issue. My wife doesn't always gas up her car, and she always almost has problems. And she wants an EV, and I think it's great, because she only drives 5 miles to work, whatever it's going to be. It makes sense. For us, though, we always lease, so we would never get the environmental benefits, because with an EV, you need to have at least 5 years to get the net pollution from the EV building to get offset by not burning, fossil fuels. But so,
go ahead, Tim.
yeah, I was like, but with her, I was like, well, you charge your cell phone every night, right? She goes, oh, yeah, okay, well, good, because you're gonna need to charge your car every night too. Like, we have to go through this process. You gotta make sure you're charging it up. But I can see you're running out of battery. I mean, I can see it happening because life gets busy. You forget to plug it in a couple days. Things.
Yeah.
Like that.
So kind of wind this down, and I think with the Toyota stuff, man, I think the jury's still out on that. I think you give it a year of, and then we'll see, is it a hit or not. I think that, especially like you were saying, in the conditions we're in right now of trying to get parts, they can't get everything they want. But as you're on EV, it got me thinking, who's going to be the leader in EV truck sales? Because that's a big dick measuring competition between these manufacturers. Obviously, Tesla's the hot guy that can't seem to actually build the truck. We've got Lightning coming up, and they all rank themselves by being the sales leader of this thing. We got in another year, I think the Silverado pops out. I think around the same time as when Ram said they're going to have it. Clearly, Nissan and Toyota better get with the program or just stop doing these vehicles. Who in 5 years is our leader?
Ford.
You think so?
Yeah, and the reason is simple. Ford has an amazing commercial business, and they built their Lightning to be a commercial truck. It's a still body on frame. It still has the same strength to it. It's got very easy conversions as far as trim levels to customers. They're making the whole process. We're doing a whole Ford commercial install with battery chargers. The Chevy Silverado is more of a lifestyle truck, the way they have it set up. Crew cab only. It's got looks like the Avalanche. It's unibody construction. I think it's going to be, if Ford does a lot of things pretty poorly. However, they do trucks and commercial businesses really well.
And let's not forget, the Lightning has a frunk, and that's
true.
Is the frunk?
Yeah, somebody got mad at me for saying that on my channel, and I was like, no, they literally call that a frunk.
Yeah,
they do. I mean, so I think Ford wins because, again, their commercial business, and the reality of full size truck sales is whatever number that you see in the sales report, just subtract half. That's commercial. So it's always funny to me. Consumers are always like, oh God, we have all the power, we all do this, whatever. And it's like, wait a minute here. No, the commercial business has the power. Consumers are a fraction of overall truck sales, right? So like, look at like Toyota Tundra, right? So 20,000 units, and they're like, well, that's not even competitive at the F series. Well, I did a story on this. You subtract off all the 250s, 350s, 450s, off that, then subtract out the commercial, and I bet you, from a consumer standpoint, Ford probably sells 80,000 to 100,000 F-150s a year to consumers. But they just probably more than maybe 200,000 to consumers. I'm just saying it's a fraction of their overall sales, and so the commercial business is massive. I went to Work Truck Show this year, and guys were literally buying 10, 12, 15 trucks right there in the sales floor from a certain brand, whatever the brand they wanted to talk to. They ordered those. So commercial is going to have the biggest impact in EVs. I think the only reason we will ever get to EV adoption with trucks in this world is going to be commercial businesses. Because from a commercial standpoint, right, you have a fleet of them. You know what they're driving is like each day. You're doing the same things. Like for you, like your job, Dave, right? So you could do an EV. I mean, you could. You may have some challenges, some job sites, some places. But when they look at your everyday driving, they look at what you're doing, and so then the company's going to come in and say that we're going to pay for you to put a charger in your house, and then we're going to give you an EV to drive every day because we know that our long-term net savings from gas usage is going to be a lot better. And from a commercial standpoint, you have two major variations in costs. You have labor and you have fuel costs. If you can minimize one of those, you will increase your profits and your business is a lot easier to run because you're not having these fluctuating fees of gas or labor.
Yeah, well, the only problem I see with that reality is then you've got insurance to deal with. Who's actually the owner of that charger if it catches fire and burns your house. There's a lot of.
There's always a variety of things that come up from that. But I've said for the longest time that I think fleets and commercials are going to lead the way for EVs because the thing is once a company, let's say like once Walmart decides that they can run EVs, it's to their benefit to add more charging stations.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, you got all these charging stations pop up that are because Walmart was like, "Hey, we can run EVs and save a bunch of money. We just put more charging stations in." Okay, there's your infrastructure solved, right? And I think that's interesting is like Toyota and Nissan, because of Japanese influence, have a lot of hydrogen going on, and hydrogen could be just as effective as a battery electric vehicle. The challenge with hydrogen is infrastructure, and guess what? The challenge with battery electric vehicles. Infrastructure, right? It's the same argument either way. We have a bunch of natural gas lines in this country. They could tap in natural gas, make hydrogen tomorrow off of that. I mean,
yeah.
So I think that those are, as much as I don't love the idea of EVs because it's not fun for me after a while to drive them. The reason I'm buying a Silverado EV is just to say big F you to the automakers, really, because they think I'm an anti-EV guy and they won't invite me to events, and so I'm like, screw you guys, I'll buy my own. And so I mean, that's kind of why I'm buying mine. I'm out of spite, but
you mean Jill's at the Hummer event and you couldn't get the?
Well, I would say that differently. That is true. I will say this: once I made the announcement I'm buying the Silverado, all of a sudden we got an F-150 Lightning invite, we got a GMC Hummer invite. I was like, what's on here? So
hey, where do you think? Final question: where do you think? We've got all this above dealer markup and everything right now. Practical when people go to start picking up these Lightnings, are these dealerships going to nail them for these vehicles? Because we see it with Hummer suddenly there's been a lot of reports of these $110,000 Hummers that are now $360,000.
Oh yeah, I think markup's going to happen. And all right, look, from a dealer standpoint, why wouldn't you? Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get the service from an EV, right? So you're going to lose that long-term profit. You are not going to get return customer at the EV, right? So a lot of those customers keep the vehicles for a long period of time, right? So you're not going to get that. Your used EV market has been terrible. So there's not much profit in used EVs. So if I'm a dealer, I'm looking at extinction. So you damn well make as much money as I can before I go extinct. And there's no corporation wise, right? So I made a talk about this the other day. I don't think I published a video yet, but I was like, I'm like, all right, Ford's like, if you mark it up, we're going to take away allocations from you. No, you're not. If this dealer sells a ton of your product every day, the last thing you're going to do is slap them on the wrist with something.
Yeah.
Right? You want that. Automakers want dealers to succeed because they're moving their product and making good for Wall Street, right? They have these reports for sales. You're not going to ding a dealer for selling something over when he's going, I'm in a small town. I got, a population of 10, 15,000 people. I can make an extra couple $1,000 before I got a business.
I live in a small town too, and my dealers was with the Bronco was said that there was a special place in hell for dealers like that mark it up ridiculously, and they are a repeat business. We're a rural farming community, and Ford pickup trucks left and right. I mean, sells a ton of them.
Maybe 20 years ago, dealers could have got away with this because people weren't as willing to travel, or there wasn't the internet that made it capable of you researching, hey, 30 minutes down the road, this guy's willing to deal. Where maybe these dealers are they better get their shit together and realize consumers can change this.
But there's a difference between a 30% markup and a 300% markup.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
And
my dealer in town is the same thing. My dealer in town hates it too. Rural area hates the deal. I did a video on a $70,000 markup in a Ford Bronco. It was an Overland, not Overland, but the
Everglades.
No, it wasn't the new one. It was whatever the middle trim is, Outer Banks.
Yeah.
It was like $70,000 on top of that. And I had that and had an F-250 for an additional 40 grand over that, whatever. Did a video on it. About 2 days later, the dealer came on my channel to that video and commented, sold them both at that price. Thanks very much. It turns out he was in Atlanta in an area that was where all the hockey players, basketball players, football players, baseball players lived. Those guys walked in. They don't care about money.
Yeah.
They just, they'd buy it sight unseen. They want a Bronco, go to dealership and buy a Bronco. I don't care what they're going to charge. It's like I tell people all the time. They're like, I had somebody reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, you must be rich." And I was like, "Rich?" And they're like, "You just bought a $60,000 truck. You must be loaded." I was like, "That's average. That's the average price these days." Like, I'm sorry if your job doesn't pay that much to afford that truck. I don't have anything for you. I'm sorry, but that's the market we're in. And the $60,000 truck I'm buying, I am well below what other people are paying for their trucks. Like I got guys that they're walking off with platinums and 794s, and they're like, one guy was like, I just went and bought the TRX. I'm gonna keep it for about 6 months because I'm gonna go into capstone when that comes out. Right. I was like, holy God, but that's that's what they want to do. And you look at it, like our housing has escalated dramatically. Our average income has gone dramatically from middle class. There's a huge gap now between middle class, upper and lower. And so people are spending the money, and if they want to do it, they want to do it. I mean, I feel like the EV is going to be the same way. They're going to spend the money. They feel good about spending the money to feel good about the environment, and then we'll run into these practical issues, right? So our power lines aren't rated for that number. There's a story in Auto News this weekend. Dealerships in different areas are spending tens of thousands of dollars to put a power station in their dealership. Why? Wow. The power company doesn't have enough power going to the dealership. They have to upgrade all their infrastructure to get power just to the dealership. Right? Yep. And so like my Ford dealer in town, he's got a hookup right now for level 2 charging. He's had it for like 10 years. Cost him $14,000. And he has one Tesla guy in town that comes over and charges, and that's all he does. Nobody else uses it, but he was forward thinking, wanted to have the stuff done because stuff was going to happen, and then it's sitting there for 14 years. So and being in a rural area, like I tell people all the time, like last thing a farmer wants is electric vehicle because rural electrical rates are much higher than they are in big cities because you have longer runs for lines and different companies and stuff, and you have and you have these rural hookups. So we lose power all the time. I lost power in the morning for a good hour and a half. Okay. No, it's what it is.
Well, I love the pun that dealers are charging what they're charging for, and then on EVs on top of it. There's a good joke in there somewhere for that. So we'll save that one for next time. So guys, go check out Tim's channel. Clearly, you do not need my help, but my loyal Bronco people, go over there and check out Tim's stuff because Tim actually did a review on a Bronco. So there's that out there. And I'm sure maybe summer comes around, Tim might be wanting to ride around with the top off. You might see a new Wrangler or something sitting in his driveway to review. But Tim, I greatly appreciate you being, well, both Tims, appreciate you being on the show. But overlanding for fun, any final questions or anything?
No.
You still looking for a
good,
snack?
good response. Good response,
Yeah.
Tim. All right, guys, go check Tim out. So whether it be 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, it doesn't matter what you drive because this has been your All Terrain Nation. And we're out. Peace, everybody. Love y'all.